Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is worth spreading. We wish you a pleasant listening experience. In this episode, we'll be discussing the book, How to Think About Weird Things, with the subtitle, Critical Thinking for a New Age. You might wonder why a book like this is relevant in the 21st century when people have received enlightenment in scientific rationality and possess the ability to debunk pseudoscience. But is that really the case? Please allow me to ask you a few questions first. Do you believe in astrology? Do you believe in karma and reincarnation? Have you ever had your fortune told or consulted palmistry? Do you feel fear when walking alone at night or passing by a graveyard, thinking there might be ghosts? Do you consider auspicious dates for family events? Do you consult feng shui when buying a house or decorating? Have you been duped by so-called ancestral secret remedies from quackery? Do you think it's possible for humans to invent time travel machines and go back in time? Your answers to these questions may vary from certainty to hesitation. Before jumping to conclusions, let's consider this. If you observe people around you closely or pay attention to the news, you'll realize that superstition and pseudoscience still persist today. In some places, feng shui and fortune-telling are as popular as ever. Someone might not believe in ghosts, but they could be fervent believers in some ancestral secret remedies or astrology. For some unexplainable supernatural phenomena, they might think that there are mysterious forces at play in the world when they encounter something they don't understand. Upon closer analysis, you'll find that topics like ghosts, fortune-telling, extraterrestrial UFOs, and time travel have a common characteristic: they sound mysterious. They may even have their own theoretical systems, but lack substantial evidence. This is the hallmark of pseudoscience. In the realm of true science, we can prove the existence of various natural laws through experiments or theoretical formulas. But superstition and pseudoscience have never provided us with reasonable explanations for phenomena. Their so-called evidence is either vague and unverifiable future predictions or peculiar personal experiences that can't be cross-checked. Of course, if we consider belief in pseudoscience as a form of psychological comfort or casual conversation, it's harmless. However, if someone genuinely believes in pseudoscience and makes decisions that impact their daily lives, that's a serious issue. For example, during a pandemic, there were jokes about people injecting disinfectants into their bodies to prevent the virus. The book we're introducing today teaches us how to identify pseudoscience using a scientific approach. Some reviewers have said that the methods provided by the authors can help laypeople see through the tricks used by charlatans, fantasists, pseudoscientists, and politicians. Through logical reasoning, the book analyzes various supernatural phenomena, explaining why pseudoscience is indeed pseudoscience. This helps us better discern lies and scams, making more informed decisions. The authors of this book are two Americans, Theodore Schick and Louis Vaughn. The former holds a Ph.D. in philosophy from Brown University and currently serves as the head of the philosophy department at Muhlenberg College, specializing in philosophy of mind, philosophy of science, epistemology, and ethics. The latter is an independent scholar and freelance writer, with several textbooks on critical thinking and ethics to his name. How to Think About Weird Things is a cross-disciplinary book that has gone through 7 editions. It discusses a wide range of superstitions, pseudoscience, and mysterious phenomena, including ghosts, divination, extrasensory perception, and near-death experiences. For the sake of clarity, I'll refer to these phenomena collectively as supernatural phenomena. Now, I'll break down the book's content into 3 parts. 1. How to assess the plausibility of various supernatural phenomena. 2. Why some phenomena, even if impossible, still have believers. 3. How to use scientific methods to test hypotheses about supernatural phenomena. Part 1. Let's begin by discussing how to assess the plausibility of various supernatural phenomena. Many people choose to believe in supernatural phenomena because they often hold a particularly simplistic view of cognition, which is that anything is possible. At first glance, the idea that in this vast world, anything is possible may seem reasonable. However, upon closer analysis, this view doesn't hold up to scrutiny. The author tells us that for an event to occur, it must be constrained by logical possibility, physical possibility, and technological possibility. If it violates any of these possibilities, then it certainly won't happen. Let's start with logical possibility. Logic refers to the laws and rules of thought. Our thinking, speaking, and actions must adhere to logic to be meaningful. So, what does it mean to be logical? The most typical logical rule, as summarized by Aristotle in the Law of Non-Contradiction, states that no object can simultaneously possess and not possess a certain attribute. For example, a person's viewpoint cannot be both correct and incorrect. A circle cannot be square. A bachelor cannot be married, and so on. How important is logic? We can say that without logic, all our cognitive activities lose their value and significance. Some might say, I don't care about logic, I'll speak however I want. If that's the case, absurd results can occur. For instance, a person's statement could be both correct and incorrect simultaneously, which is equivalent to saying nothing at all. Speaking or thinking becomes meaningless. By analyzing the logical possibilities, we can find flaws in many supernatural events and determine their authenticity. For example, someone claims that humans can travel back in time to places they've never been before. Or that people can predict the future through fortune-telling. These are logically impossible events. Why is that? Consider this: if you use a time machine to go back to a place and time where you've never been before, historical records would show that you were not present at that time and place. Yet, you are now present there, creating an obvious contradiction. It's impossible to exist and not exist in the same time and place. Now, let's talk about physical possibility. Physical possibility means that any event must comply with objective physical laws to occur. For instance, someone claims they can move objects with their thoughts. This claim doesn't have a logical problem, but it does have a physical problem. Scientists have established that in the macroscopic world, there are only two fundamental forces at play: gravity and electromagnetic force. However, the human brain lacks a significant mechanism for generating gravitational or electromagnetic forces. Therefore, the idea of moving objects with thoughts doesn't align with physical laws and is physically impossible. Finally, some events may be both logically and physically possible but still remain impossible due to technological limitations. For example, according to our current understanding of science, interstellar travel falls into the category of technologically impossible events. Some calculations have been made, indicating that for humans to travel to a star system beyond our solar system within 900 years using nuclear fusion as a power source, we would need fuel equivalent to filling 1 billion large oil tankers. Even with more efficient nuclear fusion, we'd still need enough fuel to fill 1,000 large oil tankers. If we were to use the most efficient known energy source, antimatter, we would still require enough antimatter fuel to fill 10 train cars. And keep in mind, this is just for a one-way trip. So, the conclusion is rather pessimistic. Based on our current understanding of science, interstellar travel faces insurmountable technological barriers. Whether it's humans or extraterrestrial beings, crossing star systems is an impossible feat. Through assessing possibilities, we can unveil the true nature of many strange tales. If something contradicts logical or physical principles, regardless of how grandiose the claims may be, we should not believe in it. For example, in the Western world, many people believe in astrology. They think that by examining a person's birth date and the positions of the stars at the time of birth, they can predict the future. It's evident that astrology is logically impossible. As mentioned earlier, divination and fortune-telling fundamentally involve predicting the existence or non-existence of something in the present. Furthermore, astrology is also physically impossible because there is no plausible mechanism connecting the positions of stars and a person's personality or destiny. If astrology were effective, then twins born at the same time should have identical personalities and destinies, which is clearly not the case. When evaluating physical possibility, the author adds a crucial point. He believes that we should view physical possibility with a flexible perspective because our understanding of natural laws deepens over time. Many ideas that were once considered incorrect have been proven true later on. For example, when the geocentric model dominated, the heliocentric model proposed by Copernicus was considered pseudoscience. However, such exceptions should not serve as reasons for believing in superstitions and pseudoscience. With the advancement of science, most phenomena in our daily lives can be explained by known scientific principles. Those that remain unexplained should be subjects of further scientific exploration, rather than evolving into superstitions and pseudoscience. The reason supernatural phenomena are called supernatural is because they inherently contain elements of the irrational and the impossible. Given this context, let's discuss the next question: if something is impossible, why do people still believe in various supernatural phenomena? Clearly, if each of us possessed a high level of scientific literacy and approached everything around us with a scientific mindset, superstitions and pseudoscience would not have a broad foundation for dissemination. However, not everyone is a scientist. Moreover, when we encounter supernatural phenomena, there are three reasons that can lead to erroneous judgments: faulty reasoning, erroneous beliefs, and erroneous perceptions. Let's address them one by one, starting with faulty reasoning. Faulty reasoning occurs when one uses premises to prove a conclusion. If the premises are unreliable, erroneous conclusions can result. There are various forms of faulty reasoning, and here are a few examples. Circular reasoning occurs when a conclusion is treated as a premise, creating a meaningless argument. For example, someone might say, "We should believe in God's existence because the Bible says so." But when asked why they believe the Bible, they might reply, "Because the Bible was written by God." This is a classic case of treating the conclusion as a premise, making the argument pointless. Using this method, any conclusion could be proven correct, leading to chaos. Another form is the appeal to ignorance, where the inability to prove or disprove something is used as a reason to believe or disbelieve it. It might sound a bit convoluted, but it's straightforward. For instance, someone might say, "Since no one can prove that the Loch Ness Monster doesn't exist, it must exist." Or conversely, since no one can prove that psychic powers are a hoax, they must be real. Arguments based on the appeal to ignorance prove nothing. We cannot establish the truth of something simply because we don't know it. Finally, there's the fallacy of post hoc reasoning, which involves linking two events in time and suggesting causation. For example, if someone realizes their cold disappeared shortly after putting on a necklace, they might conclude that the necklace possesses miraculous powers. This is a classic example of post hoc reasoning. There is no causal relationship between wearing the necklace and recovering from the cold, it's a mere coincidence. These examples fall under faulty reasoning, and such flawed argumentation is often the source of erroneous beliefs in superstitions and pseudoscience. In addition to faulty reasoning, erroneous beliefs also contribute to incorrect conclusions. For example, those who have seen the movie The Matrix are familiar with its futuristic setting, where all humans are enslaved by machines and live in nutrient pods, and all sensory experiences and consciousness are created by machines and transmitted to the brain. If we accept this movie's premise, we might conclude that all of reality is false and consists of signals generated by the brain. To be honest, this hypothesis can be quite convincing, and if we genuinely lived in the world of The Matrix, it might even make sense. However, the author points out that under the same conditions, the more a hypothesis conflicts with our existing background knowledge, the more reason we have to doubt it. The classic principle of philosophical inquiry, Occam's razor, advises us that if two or more hypotheses can explain observed facts equally well, we should choose the simpler one. In other words, if you have multiple hypotheses, all capable of explaining the facts, you should opt for the simpler one until further evidence arises. If we lived in the real world, everything would naturally fall into place. However, if we lived in the Matrix world, we would need to make a series of complex assumptions in addition to our existing problems. The more assumptions we make, the more potential loopholes there are, and the less credible this belief becomes. To put it bluntly, why should we complicate things for ourselves? Therefore, in comparison, we have every reason to believe that we do not live in the Matrix world. Erroneous perceptions, apart from flawed reasoning and beliefs, can also lead to incorrect conclusions. It's essential to remember that something appearing to be true doesn't necessarily mean it is true, as our perceptions are constructed by in addition to human perception being constructed. Numerous studies have shown that our memory is also constructive, even creative. When we recall an experience, our brains form an outline of it and then gradually reconstruct the memory based on that outline. This reconstructive process is inherently imprecise and can alter the original facts, ultimately leading to entirely unexpected outcomes that might seem like supernatural events. For instance, the renowned author Helen Keller once wrote a short story called The Frost King. However, after its publication, he was accused of plagiarizing another author, Margaret Canby's story titled The Frost Fairies. Helen Keller himself didn't remember reading this book, let alone intentionally plagiarizing it. Still, the investigation revealed that he had indeed read The Frost Fairies 4 years earlier, only to forget about it. This is a typical example of latent memory phenomenon, latent, as in hidden. It suggests that seemingly novel and original ideas are often fragments of memories you've forgotten. In this case, the memory of a short story was reconstructed in Helen Keller's mind in a way he was entirely unaware of, influencing his writing. If the truth hadn't been uncovered, this incident might have been considered a supernatural occurrence. Furthermore, another source of erroneous perception comes from people's availability bias. This means that our judgments are often based on vivid or memorable evidence, leading to frequent misperceptions of reality. For example, many people believe that dreams can predict the future because they notice that dream scenarios often come true the next day. However, the author points out that everyone dreams, with as many as 250 themes in a single night's dreams. Most of these dreams are forgotten upon waking up. But if something with a similar theme happens the next day, the hidden memory of the dream is triggered. This selective recall of dreams can lead us to make false judgments, believing that dreams genuinely predict reality. However, in the end, it's just a coincidence. After all, we dream about so many different things every day, and if none of them ever came true, that would be truly strange. From the above analysis, we understand that so-called supernatural phenomena are not truly beyond the laws of nature. They are, in fact, the result of people's faulty reasoning, erroneous beliefs, and mistaken perceptions. So how should we avoid errors and analyze various supernatural phenomena scientifically? The author's purpose in writing this book is to help us objectively understand various supernatural phenomena, dispelling superstitions and pseudoscience. To achieve this, the author presents an effective thinking process called the inquiry formula, which is a set of methods for investigation and research. By skillfully using the inquiry formula, we can make as scientifically objective assessments as possible of the various phenomena we encounter. The inquiry formula consists of 4 steps. Step 1. State the claim. This simply requires us to specify what we are discussing and clearly express this claim. Step 2. Find the evidence supporting the claim. Here, we need to carefully analyze what evidence supports the claim and extract this evidence. Step 3. Consider other plausible hypotheses. In other words, we should identify other reasonable explanations for the claim and thoroughly analyze them to reach the most accurate answer possible. Step 4. Evaluate each hypothesis based on the appropriateness criteria. This step is the most crucial. It requires us to weigh the reasonableness of various hypotheses and ultimately decide which one to believe. The appropriateness criteria, represented by the 5 criteria for evaluating the reliability of hypotheses, are the most important. These 5 criteria are: 1. Testability. A hypothesis should be testable to determine its truth or falsehood. 2. Predictiveness. A hypothesis should have rich predictive power, foreseeing many unexpected phenomena. 3. Generality. A hypothesis is better if it can explain a wide range of phenomena, rather than just a single one. 4. Simplicity. A hypothesis should make assumptions as simple as possible, following Occam's razor principle. 5. Conservatism. A hypothesis is more likely true if it aligns with our existing knowledge. In summary, the hypotheses that best conform to the appropriateness criteria are the strongest ones. Alright, we've now completed the 4 steps of the inquiry formula, but listening alone isn't enough. Now, let's take ghosts as an example and systematically analyze whether such supernatural phenomena truly exist. Step 1. State the claim. Just as many people say, there are real ghosts in this world. Step 2. Find the evidence supporting this claim. According to the most common belief, the evidence supporting the existence of ghosts is that many people believe ghosts are formed when a person's soul leaves the body after death. Moreover, many people claim to have seen ghosts themselves and even interacted with them, such as talking to ghosts or experiencing physical sensations like being choked or having their chest pressed upon. Step 3. Consider other possible hypotheses. Certainly, not everyone believes in the existence of ghosts, and different perspectives have led to alternative explanations for ghostly phenomena. The author lists 3 types of hypotheses. The first is the tape recorder hypothesis. This hypothesis suggests that ghosts are fundamentally a natural phenomenon because certain buildings or stones can, under fortuitous circumstances, store sound and images like a tape recorder. Therefore, when people encounter such phenomena, they might easily mistake them for ghosts. The second is the sleep hypothesis. When people enter a state of rapid eye movement, REM, sleep after a certain period, they often experience vivid dreams. However, sometimes, if a person falls into REM sleep too quickly while still awake, their waking state and dream imagery can intertwine, leading to hallucinations such as sleep paralysis, often associated with ghostly encounters. The third is the brain hypothesis. This hypothesis suggests that the phenomenon of ghosts results from the interaction between environmental sensory stimuli and the brain. Some research indicates that factors like magnetic fields, magnetic waves, and air currents in the environment can influence sensory organs and shape the subjective experiences of the brain, leading to strange hallucinations associated with the presence of ghosts. With the first three steps completed, let's proceed to the fourth step and evaluate each hypothesis based on the appropriateness criteria. Firstly, the ghost hypothesis. It's quite apparent that the idea of souls becoming ghosts after death is not explainable in physical terms. Currently, there is no physical mechanism to prove the possibility of ghosts. Even if we assume that there is indeed an unknown mystical mechanism that turns a person's soul into a ghost after death, these assumptions would raise many unresolved questions. For instance, what are ghosts made of? Do they have nerves or muscles? How do they interact with the world? Why can't we detect them? And so on. It can be observed that the ghost hypothesis lacks credibility and does not align with the appropriateness principles of testability, simplicity, and conservatism. Therefore, we consider this hypothesis to be lacking in credibility. Secondly, the tape recorder hypothesis also presents problems. It's challenging to imagine how buildings or stones could store sound and images in the manner suggested by this hypothesis. This mechanism is not clearly explained. Additionally, the tape recorder hypothesis cannot account for the so-called interactions between humans and ghosts. Consequently, it lacks in terms of conservatism and generality. On the other hand, both the sleep hypothesis and the brain hypothesis have distinct advantages. These two hypotheses do not posit the existence of any unknown forces or processes, saving us from unnecessary assumptions. Furthermore, they offer broad explanatory power. They can explain cases where people claim to have seen ghosts as well as situations where people interact with ghosts. Therefore, the sleep hypothesis and the brain hypothesis best align with the appropriateness criteria and provide the most suitable explanations for ghostly phenomena. In other words, there are no souls turning into ghosts after death. The notion of ghosts is simply the result of hallucinations during sleep or illusions created through the interaction of environmental sensory stimuli with the brain. You see, by using the inquiry formula, we have arrived at the most reasonable explanation regarding ghosts. Of course, analyzing the conclusions of supernatural phenomena through the inquiry formula does not necessarily provide definitive answers, and there may be other, better explanations. However, through careful analysis, we can at least avoid falling into the traps of superstition and pseudoscience. If you encounter so-called supernatural phenomena in the future, you might want to consider using the inquiry formula for a thorough investigation. Alright, let's summarize the content of this audio episode. Superstition, pseudoscience, and mystical experiences, these so-called supernatural phenomena, appear strange because these phenomena themselves are unreasonable and impossible. They defy both logic and the laws of physics and technology. However, many people still believe in the existence of supernatural phenomena. This is due to various possible errors in reasoning, false beliefs, and misperceptions that lead us to erroneous conclusions. To help us better understand the nature of supernatural phenomena, the author introduced the inquiry formula. By analyzing the appropriateness criteria for each hypothesis, we can achieve the most objective and scientific understanding of the world. Lastly, I want to talk about our cognitive freedom. While, in principle, everyone has the right to hold their beliefs and can choose to believe in all sorts of strange tales, rights and responsibilities often go hand in hand. The British philosopher Bertrand Russell once offered a suggestion: it's best not to believe in a proposition that lacks any supporting evidence. This is because irresponsibly holding on to any belief, without reason, can have unimaginable negative consequences for society. Countless tragedies in human history have resulted from baseless and unwavering convictions. Each of us has the right to hold our beliefs, but we also have the obligation to hold correct beliefs. I hope this book can provide us with the ability to recognize correct beliefs. Alright, that wraps up the essence of this book. Congratulations, you've listened to another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel. Like and share with your family and friends. Wisdom deserves to be spread, paving the way for a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.